Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? And our Whistle Voice Workshop, day 2. I will just give you all a little bit of time to come into the space. And I'd love to thank everybody for watching yesterday. It was really fantastic, a great group. And again, I just want to remind you that if you haven't joined the Whistle Voice Workshop pop-up Facebook group, I put the link in the chat below, so please be sure to join so that you can post your homework assignments and challenge questions. And we're going to be getting some awesome homework assignments today. And you can win prizes like a mini session with me and a scholarship to my upcoming program, which is fantastic. So without further ado, I would love to begin today with just welcoming all of you here and thanking you for your attention. And at the start, I wanted to bring on one of my very dearest friends and a beautiful, beautiful singer. She's a mezzo-soprano. And she actually has a very interesting experience with whistle register, helping her voice. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Christina Overton, and I'm going to add her to the stream right now. So please welcome Christina.
Hi.
Hi, Christina. Good to see you.
Good to be here. It's good to be a part of your whistle workshop. This is awesome.
Yay. Now, so tell everybody about how you first found the whistle voice and how that was for you.
So let me first start by saying I'm a mezzo, so I don't actually use the whistle tone in my singing, especially publicly. But I will say that learning to access the whistle tone was probably one of the, along the way, one of the most pivotal changes in my voice that I personally experienced. And I'll tell you, before I tell you how I learned it, I'll tell you why I think that. I think it added a new overtone to my voice that wasn't there before, but also the skills needed to access the whistle tone really improved my singing, which those two things, which I think are primary, is a very, very relaxed throat. And I don't know if you disagree or agree, but a very relaxed throat and a very, very specific stream of air that's very, very controlled. So once I got the whistle tone and access my whistle voice, those two things were really locked into my voice that weren't there before. So how I learned to access this, it's really funny. About, what did you say, like 5 years ago? 5 years ago, Julie called me. And one of the great things about having a singer as a dear friend is you talk shop and you talk singing. And she calls me from a voice lesson and she says, maybe it was longer than this. I don't even know. But you were like, it's probably longer. You said to me, I got this new access into my voice from my lesson. And it's really crazy. I'm accessing this new place. And I said, oh, wow, what is it? And you start talking about it. And I left that conversation driving in my car going, I got to find that place too. I mean, this is changing her singing. I got to find it. So I know my voice has changed. So I started, you had kind of explained to me what it felt like. And I just started making sounds. And I made this very squeaky, it didn't hurt, but it felt like it was wrong. It sounded like it was wrong, but it didn't hurt. It felt very easy. And it was like a cough, like a very high squeak. And instead of normally stopping, I kept going. And this is interesting. So at first, initially, all I was able to do was like this yawn sound on a whistle. So it was kind of like this. So we're going to do it. And that's all I could do. And then as I continued to build that into my voice, I could vibrato on it. I could sing on it. I could, sing a little mini aria up in the stratosphere very, very quietly. We would have these never mind. That's what I did. And why I know it changed my voice. And then, you can tell me what you think. But I had a lot of great teachers, a lot of respectable teachers, and especially from the point of my, pre-professional, professional career stage. So the stage where you're solid in the basics and you are competitive in auditions. And most of my teachers would be kind of saying the same thing, which is that I was either over darkening or pressing in the middle. but then up top, it was like it was a little spread. So in lessons, it was almost like you would use vowel modifications, which I'm a big believer of, but it wasn't achieving what they were going for. So I would make an ooh or an o to kind of get that round and try to get those overtones, but it wasn't doing it. The minute I really am a huge believer of whistle tone, aside from this workshop. The minute I learned this skill, I never got those corrections ever again, and I started getting hired. So for me, and then lastly, I'll just say this: I even to this day, I mean, my teacher doesn't even know that I do this, but I warm up accessing the whistle a lot of days to make sure that I'm able to do that very, very specific breath and that everything's relaxed. And then I go from there, my regular warm up. So that for me has been my experience with whistle tone.
That's amazing. That's so great, especially to hear from a mezzo soprano, because I think we're all used to thinking, okay, whistle tone is the domain of coloratura sopranos, but it really helps all voice types.
For sure.
Let's see. Maya says, I used to know a mezzo, now turned soprano, whose party trick was to sing full arias in chipmunk voice. Yeah.
That's
so
me.
Maya, that's you. Exactly. That's probably absolutely what it was whistle tone. Okay. Well, Christina, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Sharing your story, and I'm gonna send Christina away with lots of good vibes and good whistle tones, and we'll get started with our exercises.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye. Hi guys. Yes, so I am so happy Christina was able to come in and talk to you all about her experiences with whistle tone. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Now, there was a question from yesterday that I wanted to address. And the question was, can the whistle voice be fully integrated into the voice? Meaning like seamlessly from bottom to top. And I'm going to speak to this a little bit so that there's, no confusion about what you might gain from accessing the whistle tone. So I'm gathering that most of us here are highly trained operatic singers. And if that's the case, what is probably going to be happening is you have been trained to integrate your head voice and engage your vocalis muscle up a little bit higher in order to create that seamless transition. And what that can actually do is that can create a bigger sound, right? So you get this bigger sound up top. Then imagine, like I'm kind of doing this crescendo line, okay? So the voice is like this, right? And if you start developing it with bigger sounds, it starts going like this. Now the whistle register is a very tiny, small register. So all of a sudden what happens is it comes down like this. So if you're developing your whole voice like this, and then it breaks into whistle, there's going to be a distinct break. So again, I'm not going to say it's not possible, but I think that bigger voices especially will have trouble fully integrating the pure whistle tone into a usable aspect of their voice. But I'm not going to say it can't be done, because like, who knows? I mean, it maybe could be done. But I think that that's probably not the direction that you would want to go with whistle voice, especially if you are a larger voice or a mezzo soprano. You're going to want to use the whistle function to sort of create ease and beauty, and again, bringing in these different overtones. It really helps lessen pressed phonation. And the other thing I wanted to address from yesterday is the difference between pure head tone and whistle tone. So pure head tone is basically the chords are just touching lightly together. And when we engage in a middle register singing, which, this gets a little complicated because it's chest voice and head voice, but the middle register is like a nice kind of combination of both muscles being engaged. However, if we don't thin out that vocalis muscle contraction as we go up a little bit higher, especially through that second passaggio, then we can start pressing a little bit and we can make impressive sounds. Here's the thing that I just want you to keep in mind. It is entirely possible to make amazing sounds that aren't necessarily the most functional. So keep that in mind as you're exploring with this stuff. So if you are not thinning out enough, then you're probably not going into the pure head. And so if you did go into that kind of unsupported place that feels like pure head tone, you might think it's whistle tone because the disengagement can be quite strong. So I have my podcasting mic here, so this is not the most conducive to singing, but I'm going to try to give you a couple examples so that you can hear what I'm talking about with the pure head tone versus the whistle. Okay, so if we have, I'm gonna start on an E5, okay? So, that's that pure head tone. That's not whistle function. Again, head function, pure head. Then, but is that how I really sing on the stage? Probably not. So I would do something a little bit more like, but the pure head is, so that pure head function, because I've lightened the mechanism enough, that will go more easily into the whistle register. I hope you all can hear that. Anyways, so I did want to address that. If you feel like you're confused about which one you've been experimenting with, I will encourage you by saying that the whistle voice feels so weird, okay? And we're gonna get into it right now. I'll show you a way to access it, and you will see what I mean by it is totally out of this world. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into exercises. Okay, so one thing as we're doing all of these exercises, please keep in mind, there was a little bit of confusion in the group, and I just want to clear it up. Make sure that that tongue, if the tongue is yanking down and kind of making a little groove, I'm not saying that's not whistle voice, but we don't want that to happen when we're trying to produce whistle voice, okay? So I suggest that the tongue is gently arched, kind of in that NG position. And you also want to make sure that the laryngeal muscles are pretty relaxed, pretty low. So yawning, as Christina said, the yawn is a nice way to kind of find that. You don't want to support also, or at least of what you think of as support, meaning breathe and kind of, try not. I think it's probably better if you don't. And you don't want to put excess breath pressure or breath in the sound. Minimal airflow is best. It's like this tiny little jet stream of air. In fact, you may not even feel like you're using air. It might just feel like you're making sound on sound. So first things first, let's locate our epiglottis. Does any of you know what the epiglottis is or how that functions in singing? If you have an idea, just drop it in the chat. I'm curious to see. Oh, by the way, I missed some things. Okay, is whistle voice not allowed in opera and only head voice? What is the debate about? Singing high notes in pure whistle is not looked upon favorably in opera. Yeah, usually the reaction is that it's not on the voice. Exactly, Maria. However, the whistle function does assist in making the high notes much easier, because otherwise if you're going up in a pure head function, it's going to cap off much earlier. Let's see. Yeah, okay, not singing, but it stopped. Yes, the epiglottis does stop food from going down the windpipe. That is correct. The flap that closes over the trachea during swallowing, right. So when we sing and whistle register, that epiglottis actually folds down over the glottis, okay? So it's at its most, like, this is the throat. Okay, here's the epiglottis. So I like to say that when I'm singing in my regular voice, that my epiglottis, I actually can feel that it's up and not pulling back. But then as we go to the whistle register, the epiglottis actually closes down, okay? So if you can kind of locate that in the back of your throat, kind of a little gagging feeling, like, can you make that sound? Yes, Kendall, exactly. The epiglottis narrows the throat so you can sing higher frequencies. Absolutely. Okay, so if you feel a okay. Now, with that idea, I want you to keep that narrowness in the throat that you feel by doing that. Okay, and we're gonna actually inhale in. I know, this is crazy. What did you sign up for? Okay, we're gonna inhale like this. It doesn't matter what it sounds like, just inhale with me and see what comes out. Okay, I think the chat is just like a couple seconds late, so try that and then drop in the chat if you were able to make a whistly kind of sound by doing that. So I am breathing in. That is an inhale singing. Very good for coronavirus. I saw something going around about that. Okay, no responses yet. I think that might be a delay with StreamYard, so I will just wait. Okay, so give that a try. And oh yes, okay. Yes, Jess said yes. Done. Okay, good. Yes, awesome. I love it. So this is why I wanted to show you this. Obviously, we're not going to be singing inhaling, although there's a really funny video going on about learning inhalare la voce, especially in coronavirus, because we can sing on the stage now, but it's sidetracking. Okay, so because we can feel this muscular setup, this is very similar to how we're going to feel the musculature when we're actually singing in whistle tone by the normal means like exhaling. And the reason is because when you're inhaling, the glottis, the vocal folds can't actually close completely or you won't get any air in. So remember what we talked about yesterday, there's a really large open quotient, meaning the chords are not touching each other for very much during cycles. So when we inhale, we're bringing in the air and we're teaching our vocal folds to stay open as we're inhaling so we can maybe approximate that sound. So that is a really good entry point into finding what that whistle tone sounds like. And it's not going to be clean because you're inhaling, it's going to be very weird, but you might hear those frequencies. Okay, now we're going to learn the gentle fry to the whistle register. I saw some of you doing that on the videos yesterday, and I did talk about that in my whistle tone video on YouTube, but I do want to speak a little bit more to that because there are some important things you need to know when going from the vocal fry to the whistle tone. First of all, like a whistling tea kettle, yeah, mine's an octave higher. An octave, okay, it was an octave lower. Oh, cool. Kind of like wheezing. Okay, yeah, this is awesome, guys. Like a whistling tea kettle, totally. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to find that low fry. And a fry should be very relaxed. If you're feeling like it's not right, okay? So just the most relaxed function you can. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go from there. And that's why I say take this slow. You don't want to do fry, sing, very slow. And so there's very little activity going on in my throat. I recommend you don't try to go for the highest note that you can, because as we're going to learn a little bit later in this discussion, this is actually not the best way that you want to exercise the whistle register. So again, find that fry. Okay, and let me know if you were able to find it from that. And I will keep going because I think our chat is just like not synced up. That's okay. Okay, so now we're gonna get to the little ooh. Who has heard about the coperto or the little ooh kind of vocalese? Or, I mean, you know, it's interesting. This whole straw thing, I brought my straw. Wait, should we consciously try to make a certain pitch? No. I think you shouldn't. I think you should see where the voice wants to go with absolutely no effort. Because I'm just thinking fry. like wherever it sort of wants to go. And then once you get a whistle tone function, you can start to play around with the pitches. So this, this whole SOVT exercise, I think can be helpful, and you can help yourself by finding that little ooh with a straw. So yeah, but it should be a totally random pitch. That's awesome. Okay, sounds really low to be a whistle. Yeah, but you know what? It depends. Go check, because the whistle tone has really interesting overtones, and I would just see, because it actually really might be whistle tone. It doesn't need to be high to be whistle tone function. Okay, so David Jones goes on about this a lot. Was wondering if it's related to the whistle. Yeah, it's definitely about exercising the thin edge. Now, I've seen this exercise demonstrated a lot. And for me, this is just personal. Again, you need to try it on yourself and decide for yourself what's right. But for me, this semi-occluded vocal tract exercise. Sorry. Yes, semi-occluded vocal tract exercise. It means that we close our mouth so that we barely have any stream of air coming out, and it actually alleviates pressure on the vocal cords so that we can make the pitches a little bit easier. Now, when we're doing this, I hear a lot of people trying to even out their registration with doing the SOVT exercises. And I would really recommend that you sort of instead see where the voice wants to go. Okay, and keep in mind, when you're singing through a straw, the voice is going to break at an earlier point, usually about 3 to 4 semitones early, sometimes even earlier. So you're going to take your straw, and if you just start down, now, did you notice something? I don't know about you, but it seemed like I had a very small head voice function and very small chest voice, and whistle function seemed to take over very quickly up. Now, the standard practice of this is for people to do, which I suppose is okay too, but I like using this to find those register separations, because when you find the register separations, you can really strengthen the registers more efficiently than if you're just constantly learning to blend them. Especially if you've been singing for a long time and you are experienced. Oftentimes we think about exercising the registers in isolation more when we're learning to sing. And that's something that we always want to bring back into our daily hygiene of singing. So we can do that same function with the straw with our lips, okay? And that's that tiny ooh. So if you think, now that wasn't a whistle tone. Do you hear that? Now, oh, no. I have to really try to keep it all in head voice. Yeah, so Maya, that's really interesting. Again, I think that they're two different exercise functions. I think you can do the version where you're trying to blend, and I think that's okay as long as you're not squeezing or these muscles right here aren't kind of assisting. But I think that doing the coperto exercises with the breaks are very important, especially when you're first vocalizing in the day. I think that's very healthy. No, definitely means nothing is wrong. No, absolutely not. So, okay. So with this tiny ooh, we can do a really great exercise. And this was one of the exercises that, if you'll remember from yesterday, I am like totally fangirling out with Allison Homespun-Dixon's dissertation. So they actually did part of the treatment period for these singers in the whistle tone function was on this little ooh in the second passaggio. So here is an exercise that they did, and I'm going to start on C5 because that's kind of the beginning of my passaggio. You guys can pick any. You can go a little bit lower, a little bit higher, whatever you want. So if you start here and you do, whoops, I shot up a little too high than I wanted to. There we go. Can you hear that? So I'm keeping everything very relaxed. There is no kind of pressure. And even the first tone, if you notice, I'm trying to keep that in head function. I'm not trying to add anything extra, just very clean. I really struggle with the straw. I just end up forcing and being really breathy. Yeah, exactly, Tanya. I think that the straw, again, has to be used in the correct way. And sometimes you have to take one step before you take the next step. I would say if you're going to use the straw, or you can also just use your lips in tiny ooh, and you can just try and do that with the breaks and allow the breaks to be there. Breaks are there for a reason. What does that sound like inside? It sounds like a weird alien, tiny little voice. Okay, I'm here in Europe, right? So it is 7:30. I mean, it's not too late. But sometimes when I'm teaching till 11 o'clock my time, because of the time difference, I am demonstrating, and I often demonstrate to my students in whistle register because we live in an apartment here in Europe, and I don't want to be waking up my neighbors with high C's. So I demonstrate in the whistle register, and I never am worried that that is going to carry around at all. So it's a really small, tiny sound, but the overtones are very potent. So there is that perception by me that nothing's happening. But I was riding in the car actually a couple days ago, sort of talking out my my workshop to my fiance, and I was practicing the whistle tones in the car, and he was like, "Please stop," because it was loud. So there is that aspect too. Are you starting with head voice and switching to whistle voice in this exercise? Yes, Kendall, I am starting in head voice. As pure of a head tone as I can manage. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so that is another exercise that you can use to find the whistle voice. The next one is my personal favorite, and I will just say, because the tongue is just such an issue, okay? It is just an issue in all of singing. Practicing the whistle register without the tongue helping is really essential. So this exercise is going to be very pretty. We're going to stick out our tongues really far, okay? Don't get a pencil, nothing like that. You don't need to grip onto anything. But if you stick out your tongue really far, okay? Not like grabbing, but just kind of as far as it will go. And you're going to do so try that and see what happens, because what you're going to notice, this is why I love this one. If you've been assisting your tone as you go into the top with the root of the tongue, you're going to feel that tongue want to pull back in order to make sound. And if you don't let it, chances are the voice is going to flip into some sort of whistle configuration, especially if you're not engaging extra support. That's the key. Don't engage your full support like you were singing a full tone. Okay? So give that a try, and I'm really curious to see how you all feel that. Okay, yeah, Jess, I'm from America. I grew up in Orlando, Florida, but I live in Bratislava, Slovakia. So yes, kind of very different parts of the world. Okay, my voice breaks up, but then nothing but air comes out above the break. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, I'm not going to make a blanket statement. Demo again, please. Okay, so if we do and actually I felt my tongue trying to come back on that one, that last one. So you really want to make sure that it doesn't. Okay, yeah, you sound like a baby. Exactly. This thing with when the air is coming out, I'm not positive, because I'd have to hear exactly what was going on in that moment, but that can often mean that especially if you don't feel anything in the throat, like it feels really relaxed, it might mean that you're opening too much. So you need to kind of find that balance of engagement versus disengagement, because sometimes what can happen is that there's just too much disengagement and then we don't have tone really. So that can think, okay, not so great for me, no tongue grabbing, but just can't really get a consistent tone like I did in other exercises. Interesting. Can you get any tone out, or it's just not consistent? I get some cracking, but it's there. Okay, cracking's fine. When first discovering this, oh, and also, by the way, guys, look, this is not a plug. I'm not represented by these people, but I did buy this vocal mist. So this thing is amazing, hydrates the cords, and I was using it before this because I know the whistle register is very finicky and doesn't like dehydrated cords or swollen cords. So yeah, if you have, something that you're going to want to vocalize and whistle register, just make sure you're not dehydrated, drinking lots of water. And if you have something like that, like a nebulizer, it's really helpful. Yeah, okay. If you can't get a consistent, yeah, you know what? If you can't get a consistent tone in any one of the exercises, because like all of our bodies are different. Oh, it's called vocal mist. And I think it's like, here, I'll type it in the chat. My vocal mist is what it's called. Yeah. Okay, you hear very tiny overtones. Okay, only super high, then it's just kind of crackly for a while. Okay, so you can access the whistle register really high, but not low. You know what? This is normal. I think this is really, really normal in the discovery of the whistle voice process. So it is okay if your voice is skipping up to like the higher octave where the whistle register likes to sit. That's also okay too. Yeah, and Mary, if you can smooth out the break, that is fantastic. But I don't think that's necessary. Like I was saying, I think that, some people will find this as a usable register for them, depending on their voice type, and some will just realize that it's not, but it helps the whole voice. So vocalizing on it helps. Okay, so now I want to give you one more idea as you play around with finding your whistle register. Tomorrow, we're going to go into integration exercises. So we are going to be learning how to join the whistle register with our full voice to extend our range basically and get our upper extension going. Now, I do want to state for the record, everybody has a voice type, and I don't like to put categories like this is your voice type, that's your voice, but everybody's voice is different and functions differently. So somebody might be able to get a high G coordinated. Somebody might only get up to a high C sharp or high C coordinated with whistle tone. That's okay. It just really depends on your voice type. So remember, use the whistle function as a tool and not as, I'm going to get a high B flat like Médo Robin. But speaking of Médo Robin, one other tip I wanted to give you in finding this. This is actually the French nasal method, okay? So if you say, can you say that like, hee hee hee, ho ho ho, like in Little Mermaid, if you like that movie. I love that movie. Okay, ho ho ho. If you all feel that. Yeah, this also without support, yes. All of the whistle voice things without, there's probably support there, but telling a trained singer to support is not a good idea when finding whistle functions. So yes, for everybody who's a trained singer, don't support, for sure. Make sure you use the saline solution. Yeah, in the My Vocal Mist, for sure. For sure, don't use anything else. Okay, so now what I wanted to show you with this ho 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 sound, if you feel that French nasal, can you make a sound there? It's almost like a baby cry, like, okay? Find that. And then what we're going to do, we're going to try to take that high. Okay? This is another method. It's going to feel a little different. because it's a different access point. But again, we're all shaped differently inside of here, and people's muscles move in different ways. So one of these ways might be a good entry point for you to find the whistle register. And of course, I don't want to forget Christina's wonderful demonstration of the yawn to the whistle register. That's important. So you can find it by a full yawny siren. Okay, but let's try this French nasal thing. So we're gonna do try that, and I want to hear from you how that felt. Let's see. Okay. What if it pops in for just squeaks and then out? Yeah. That's a really good question. I think that's probably, if it pops in a little bit, I mean, the squeaks are, if they're within semi-normal range, like, high E flats, E's, F's, I think that's okay. If it's a super, super sonic, like off the piano, there might be, I'm not exactly certain because again, I have it, but there could be a couple things. There could be excess tension, or there could be just not enough engagement. That's sort of what I'm going with here. There's either one or the other. Too much engagement or not enough. That one works very well for me, new to me. The French nasal not happening here. Yeah, exactly. And not all of these things are going to work for everybody. That is for certain. Okay, so again, just to recap, we learned, first of all, the yawn to the whistle register, really making sure we're not trying to support and smooth out. We also learned the inhale. Then we learned that gentle fry to the whistle register. Then we also learned the little ooh, which we can use with a straw as long as we're not trying to join the registers. Which we can also do with our lips. And we can also do with that purposeful whistle voice register activation, if we do pure head tone, or either one is okay. So you can do the da 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 or da 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 da. Okay, and then we also did the tongue out. Okay, and then we also did the high French nasal sound. Okay, so here is your homework for today, because we're going to be moving into integration exercises tomorrow. And I do want to make sure that you have some handle on accessing the whistle tone, at least a little bit, okay? So pick 3 of these modalities, these exercises. And if you're brave, I want you to video yourself and drop it in the group, okay? And obviously pick the ones that work for you, because if they don't work, throw them out. Let's see. I took the French nasal away, but I still can't get my voice to flip to anything like pure whistle. It seems too tied to the balanced voice. Yes, of course. So you know what? You're just going to have to experiment and play around. That is the really beautiful thing about the whistle register. It does not respond to perfection or like, trying to get this really balanced sound. No, you have to be out there like the kids on the playground. I hear them all the time. They're screaming in their whistle registers, and I'm like, oh, this is great. This is perfect example of whistle registration. So yeah, you have to play. You've got to find where your voice can just flip. And that is really the key. Okay, let's see. Is it Is it normal not be able to control the pitch level at first? Yeah, when I try that head to whistle exercise, the whistle comes in way higher at first. Totally, Maya. That is completely normal, and for a very long time. Like, keep in mind, I think I started whistle registration exercises about 11 years ago. Okay, so I've been doing this for a long time, and I still don't have complete mastery of it, okay? But it is reliable now on the pitches that I want to sing. But it took a really long time to get that reliable. Oftentimes it was just completely random, just here, there, everywhere. But the point is that you're really vocalizing in that register. Okay, would you list the exercises in a post on the group page? Yes, I will. Absolutely. I will do that. What if you're not brave? Come on. That's another conversation. If I blow too much air through, it starts getting really breathy. And so, yes, guys, don't blow too much air. In fact, remember the inhale. Remember that inhale. Could you tell when I was inhaling and exhaling? You probably couldn't, right? Exactly. That kind of function, it really requires no air. If you're getting this, I can't really do that, but that's not the right one. You want, in fact, I think when I recorded one of my whistle register videos on YouTube, I actually didn't know for a second whether I was exhaling or inhaling, and I had to stop and like analyze it. That's how little the airstream is. So there really isn't any sensation of air coming out, but you're not squeezing the cords. That's the key. So if you think about this practically, right, by exercising this idea that the cords are not going to squeeze together and there's going to be very little airflow, you're gaining some really valuable skills for all of your singing. Like, that is really, really important. Okay, well, let's see. Any tips on how to avoid vocal damage since it's unsupported? Okay, no, this is not vocal damage. So first of all, I don't want to turn this into a support discussion, but I will say that this idea of support, remember, all support is holding breath pressure off the voice. Okay? So if you're not taking in very much air, if I'm not going to breathe in like this to make my whistle register. I'm just not. In fact, if you've noticed, I've barely taken a breath when I demonstrate. I'm just saying with what is there. So I'm not even taking a special breath for that. So you're not going to achieve vocal damage, first of all, probably just by experimenting, but also it's about holding the air off the voice, not pushing the air to the voice. So remember that. I might be jumping the gun here, but are these the exercises to do daily to help extend your range, or are these primarily for when you're first finding it? Both actually. So personally, I feel that these pure exercises are even more beneficial, but I will say if you don't do these ones every day, you won't be able, like the ones we'll do tomorrow, you won't be able to do. So yes, these are the first step to extending the range. 100%. You have to do these. Because tomorrow we're going to be doing some crazier things, and I'm going to step back from the mic tomorrow because it's going to get loud. So make sure you're in a space that you can really sing, because it will be a little bit loud and kind of scary. Anyways, I wanted to thank you all so much. This is really fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing all your videos. Again, we're going to pick 3 of those exercises that I gave you. I will post them in the group. If you're not a member of the group yet, I dropped it in the chat and I will drop it again. So please become a member and post your videos. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you mañana, same time, same place. Thank you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.